It's so emotional for me to be back here in Diobu, where it all started 18 years ago for me. A lot of people were born with a silver spoon. Financially, I was born with a silver spoon academically. I was a straight A student and a medical lab scientist. I was always top of the class. And the first place I came to work ever in my life was right here in Diobu in Meridian Hospital. And that is where the journey all started. I discovered after a month or so of working that people were dying not because we didn't have the expertise to treat them or the intention or willingness to treat them, but because they didn't have either them or someone make a deposit before they are treated in cases of emergency. I've always grown to have heart and empathy. It was painful to see people die because of 1 pint of blood that was 5,000 Naira then. That was when the passion was born. I went to my director and said, why can't we treat people? Because of 5,000 Naira, somebody just died. And he told me, goodwill does not pay the rent. Goodwill does not pay the light bill. This is a business. And I was so passionate I couldn't take that. I told him, anybody that does not pay when they get well, take the money from my salary. From the day I made that statement, I probably didn't have a complete salary until I left and resigned 2 years later. But before I resigned, I gave it my all. I was doing 3 jobs as against what my mates were doing. And that wasn't enough. All I could get from that was ulcer, stomach ulcer. So I decided to build a legacy and become an entrepreneur. And the decision and the resolve was what gave birth to the journey I want to take you on. I met Ayo here in Diobu. Ayo had oil. I could supply a tanker of that oil for 3.5 million and made 1.5 million Naira profit. It was simple. After all, entrepreneurship is just about making profit. But guess what? I didn't have 3.5. I had 2.3. I borrowed 1.5. And because a bank does not lend money to beginners, I borrowed from my colleagues and friends in the teaching hospital. And I promised them a return. Oil didn't supply the oil. And instead of the dream of making money to help with the bills of patients, I found myself in debt and I was arrested. In Nigeria, when you lose your money, it's not a crime. But when you lose investors' money or creditors' money, you all know that you get to the police station, right? Or EFCC, right? So I spent 2 days there, but it was not the 2 days. It was the pain of losing my silver status. I've never failed. I'm the most reliable person I knew then. I've never lied. But I was in the police cell for 2 days, treated as a criminal because I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to build a legacy to help people so that they don't die because of 5,000 Naira. Lost in the thought of what do I do? How do I get back my reputation? How do I pay back 1.2? How do I even make the money I wanted to make as an entrepreneur? It was a harrowing and the longest 2 days of my life. I remembered what Winston Churchill said, that success is going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. I encouraged myself. I said, no shaking, I'll go on because that's what entrepreneurs do. And I wanted a legacy that when my story is told, they will say, I never gave up. I came out, struggled to pay back those monies. It was affecting my work. It was affecting my focus. I even had problems with my directors because I was pressuring for more pay. I had ulcer. I was working from 6 a.m. every day till 11 p.m. every night and sleep in the hospital every other night. It was not enough. I resigned and went to learn this business full time. That was 2007. A few years later, I had succeeded. I had a filling station. I was the second largest diesel distributor in Imo State. I was doing a turnover of millions of Naira. And then one day, it happened on the 19th of December 2012. A tanker of oil taking oil from my filling station to the government house fell along the Anjaba River and I lost everything. That tanker was just 4 million Naira. I went to run an audit and I discovered I had lost 50 million Naira from pilfering and wrong stuff. This time around, I was in debt again. And it wasn't 1.2. It was 18 million Naira. And I was arrested again, as a matter of fact, serially. But this time around, it wasn't 2 days. Ladies and gentlemen, I became the mayor of Owerri prison because I spent 8 months in the awaiting trial cell of Owerri prison. And we were 94 in a cell originally meant for 16 people, and the 94 of us used one toilet and one bathroom. If not for anything, in the first couple of days, I learned to hold my peace, because if peace catch you there, you go take turn. While in that place, I said, could this be the dream of how I will pay for the hospital bills of those that can't make deposits and save lives? Could this be the legacy I am building? Could this be the story? And I had the greatest epiphany that entrepreneurs are not people that make profit with money or from capital. Entrepreneurs are people that make profit from adversities. And there was, faced with so much adversity, and with a new light that all these trials can turn to triumph if I can just turn it around. And how do I turn it around? I needed to start learning from it. I needed to learn about people. I needed to read. And then the greatest epiphany for me is that we become what we study. I started reading voraciously, reading business, reading sales, reading marketing, reading everything that has to do with entrepreneurship, because we become what we study. I was a lab scientist by studying medical lab science. I needed to study business, study success to become a success. And that was where I started. The journey had a lot of courage, a lot of vulnerabilities. There are days I cried. But guess what? It started with that resolve here in Diobu that bettered the most important legacy every entrepreneur must aspire to build. That legacy is the legacy of grit. When you check the meaning of grit in your dictionary, you see words like resolve, courage, strength of character. But for me, grit is what happens when you are able to blend your experience with lots of courage. Blend your experience with embracing your vulnerability and not denying them, but growing bigger than them, and not wishing, like Jim Rohn says, that things are easier, but wish that you grow better. And then you will tap into the biggest and the deepest well of treasures in the world, inexhaustible, the well of human capital and your mental capital. When you develop that grit and come out, you begin to see opportunities where people no longer see opportunities. You begin to see challenges as bread, where people are complaining there are too many challenges. You're asking, where is the akara I can add to the bread to make it a balanced diet? I came out and I asked myself, in that place I had clarity. One of the things of the blessings of adversity is clarity. But greater than that is understanding. I had read a lot of books. And Paulo Coelho, in his book, The Alchemist, said, when a man decides to pursue his dream, the universe conspires to help him get it. But get what? Their conspiracy is a test conspiracy to test how much adversity your dream can withstand. So not all your dreams are your dreams, entrepreneurs. Not all your legacy are your legacy. Your personal legacy are those that continue to stand when the greatest adversity has tried to quench them. I came out with grit. But more than the dictionary definition of grit is what in her book she calls the power of passion and persistence. I started again, this time around, in the most secured industry in the world, real estate. I started with nothing, but lots of passion, lots of lessons, lots of experience, and lots of grit. From then till now, I study 4 hours every day, not because I'm preparing for an exam, because I am the exam. The greatest legacy you can leave is a story that can make people tick. A story that ticks. Tick is an acronym for a story that can teach people to be stronger. A story that can inspire people to do more. A story that can create something that people want to create. A story that can collaborate with people even when you have long gone. That is the greatest legacy you can build as an entrepreneur. I found out the more the adversities, the stronger the power of your story, with the more you end up with. So every failure doubled my resolve to succeed and doubled the level of the success I wanted to succeed in. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm here today to tell you that I made it. I started in 2018 in real estate, and in 5 short years, I'm not just the brand of the year, but I've gone from negative balance. The project we are presently running in Alessa is a $100 million worth project. It's about $100 billion. And why did the universe deem me fit for that project? Because of the amount of adversities I could test. So the number of years and how much the universe pays you depends on how much it tests you. And one of the greatest person that was tested and created a legacy out of failure is Thomas Edison. I want you to know the greatest legacy that has ever come out of entrepreneurship and impact investment in the future. As I round up, pull out your phones. Google companies that were created during a recession. Has Google showed you the answer? You see companies like Airbnb that was created during the last recession. You see companies like Uber, companies like WhatsApp, a lot of companies. But you also see General Electric still standing there. It was formed in the 19th century on the 1892. And it was formed by Thomas Edison in 1879 before General Electric incorporated him. They were the biggest electric company in the world for 100 years undisputed. Until 1992, there was no energy bulb. The incandescent bulb was the only source of energy that turns electricity to light and lighting up the whole of the world. And guess what? He left that legacy because he failed to accept failure as an outcome. After 10,000 failed experiments, I have not failed 10,000 times. I envy Thomas Edison. So when you want to build a legacy, know that it's your story of what you've gone through. I was so happy when down the humorous mention about the beginning, the middle, and the end. Ladies and gentlemen, behold the middleman. In conclusion, building a legacy, building a business, making an impact are all summed up in one word: the capacity to do more and the power of your story. Ask yourself, the life you're building, the business you're building, and the investment you're making, when that story of how you started, your middle especially, is told and how you ended, will it make the hearer weaker or make the hearer stronger? One of the greatest liabilities that we have produced in our age is that we have failed to make impact even in the direct beneficiaries of our success, which is our children. Because at the end, it is not what you leave for them that is important, but what you leave in them. I am hoping as I leave, what I've left in you will be more important than what I left for you. Thank you.